Hi, Mrs. Gates here. We are going to be looking at how to create a data table in a Google Sheet and make a graph that you can then import into your lab report. Go ahead and get your data handy so you can follow along as we go through the instructions. Once you have your Google Sheet opened, you're going to go ahead and start entering your data. You need to enter your data in columns so that the left-hand column is your independent variable and your right-hand column is the dependent variable. The data that I'm starting with is the height and the age for an elephant measured over a 15-year span. So I have the age, that's the independent variable in the left-hand column. The height is in the right-hand column. And if you notice the numbers that I've typed in those spots for the data, I've just typed numbers with no units. Now, in science, units are incredibly important, and so we need to include them, but we are going to include them in the header where we've written the variable. So here where we have age, I'm going to enter the unit that this is measured in years. Same thing for the height. I'm going to enter the height is in meters. That way, we have our units included, but the Google Sheet will recognize that these are numbers and not words. All right, now to going to making our graph. In order to make the graph, we highlight the cells that have the data that we're looking at, go up to the menu at the top where it says Insert, and we want to insert a chart. So we click on Chart, and Google Sheet does a lot of the thinking for us. It looks at the things we've entered. It says these top rows look like headers. That looks like the labels for our data. And these all look like numbers. And one of the best ways to display numerical data is in a scatter plot. And so that's what it's done. Now, since it did a lot of the thinking for us, it's a good idea to double check that the things it did is what we want it to do. So look at your axis. On the x-axis, we have age in years. That's what we wanted. On the y-axis, we have the height in meters. That's what we wanted. Now we look at our data point. So here, this looks good, and this data point looks like it is way off. So let's look at what happened here. And when I look back at my data, I see that I actually typed in the data incorrectly. It should have been 1.3, right? But I typed in 13. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to edit that data point and I'm going to make that 1.3. And notice what happens to our graph when I change that. Google Sheets recognizes that I changed the data and it automatically changes and rescales the graph for me. So now my data point looks like it's in line. Now our elephant is growing along and we have 1.3 as our value and it rescaled our axis. So that's nice. The last thing I want to double check here is the title of the graph. So notice that it automatically chose a title for us, height versus age. Dependent variable versus independent variable. That's basically what we want, but a couple of things that I would like to change about that. I don't need my units in my title, and I would like it to be a little bit more specific. I would like to be able to say what this is the height and the age of, at least in the title of my graph. So that's where I'm going to come over here to the chart editor on the right-hand side of your page. If this hasn't appeared, if you double click on your graph, you should be able to see the chart editor. So I want to go to Customize, and I would like to customize the chart and axis titles. And it says here what my title is right now, height in meters versus age. I'm going to change that. So I actually have height versus age of an elephant. And that gives my title a little bit more specificity. If you would like a line of best fit on your graph, you need to come back to the Customize menu and pull down the drop-down menu called Series. Scroll down until you see these checkboxes for error bars, data labels, and trend line. If you click trend line, this means a line of best fit. For this data, it automatically said that we wanted linear, but we have a couple of other options. We could have picked exponential, polynomial, logarithmic, power. For now, we'll stick with linear. We can choose the line color. And the size, we can make that thicker if we want to. And then for the label, what we would really like is to use the equation. So make sure that's selected as use the equation. And then you'll see that up at the top of our graph, we have the equation for the line of best fit. We're assuming we mean y equals 0.0825 times x plus 0.987. That means the slope of my line is this number, 0.0825, and the y-intercept is 0.987. If you wish to represent the uncertainty of your data on your graph, you will need to add error bars. Error bars are a visual representation of how uncertain you are about each of the values that you have entered. Let's say that when we measured the height of our elephants, we were within 0.1 meters of an actual true value. That means that when we measured the height of the elephant as 1.1 meters, we meant that the height could be anywhere between 1 meter and 1.2 meters. In order to add error bars to our graph, we will come back to the chart editor, click on Customize, open the Series drop-down menu, and scroll down till you see where we have error bars. Check on the error bars box and set the type to constant. We would like the value of our error bars to represent 0.1 meters. When we click enter, you see little wings appear around our points. That means that the true value of that data point could really be anywhere in between those wings, but is best represented where we see the dots. This gives us a way to visualize the uncertainty in our data when we are looking at a graph. Once I have the graph exactly the way I want it to look, it's time to put it in my lab report. In order to do that, click on your graph. There's 3 little dots up in the right-hand corner. Click those and copy your chart. Then go to where you would like your chart to be. In this case, I have a Google Doc called My Fabulous Lab Report. I will paste my chart in there, and it gives me 2 options. Link to spreadsheet, which means it will change when you change the spreadsheet, or paste unlinked. I want it to look exactly how it does now, so I'm going to paste unlinked. Click on paste, and now my chart is part of my lab report.